we go. Phone numbers here. After this segment, we're going to go to phone calls. But first, we got to talk about this. What I'm about to share with you is a clip of a testimony that was done in front of the Oversight Committee. A testimony that riveted me, and I think it's going to rivet you in a certain way, a way it's going to move you to want to get involved. So no more further ado, let's check out that clip.
Good morning. My name is Jo Hutchison. I'm a single mom of two who's lived in West Virginia all my life. I'm also a community organizer for West Virginia Healthy Kids and Families, Our Future West Virginia, where I organize and advocate for poor and marginalized folks. Today I'm here to help you better understand poverty because poverty is my lived experience. And I'm also here to acknowledge the biased beliefs that poor people are lazy and that poverty is their fault. But how do I make you understand things like working full-time for $10 an hour is only about $19,000 a year, even though it's well above the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour? I want to tell you about a single mom I met who was working at a gas station. She was promoted to manager, and within 30 days, she had to report her new income to DHHR. Within 60 days, her rent bumped from $475 to $950 a month. She lost her SNAP benefits and her family's health insurance. So she did what poor people are forced to do all the time. She resigned her promotion and went back to working part-time just so she and her family could survive. Another single mom I know encouraged her kids to get jobs. For her DHR review, she had to claim their income as well. She lost her SNAP benefits and her insurance, so she weaned herself off of her blood pressure medicines because she, working full-time in a bank and part-time at a shop on the weekends, couldn't afford to buy them. Eventually, the girls quit their jobs because their part-time fast food income was literally killing their mother. You see, the thing is, children aren't going to escape poverty as long as they're relying on a head household, who was poor. Poverty rolls off the backs of parents and right onto the shoulders of our children, despite how hard we try. I can tell you about my own with food insecurity. The nights I went to bed hungry so my kids could have seconds, and I was employed full-time as a Head Start teacher. I can tell you about being above the poverty guideline, nursing my gallbladder with essential oils and prayer, chewing on cloves and eating ibuprofen like they're Tic Tacs because I don't have health insurance and I can't afford a dentist. I have 2 jobs and a bachelor's degree, and I struggle to make ends meet. The federal poverty guidelines say that I'm not poor, but I cashed in a jar full of change the other night so my daughter could attend a high school band competition with her band. I can't go grocery shopping without a calculator. I had to decide which bills not to pay to be here in this room today. Believe me, I pulled myself up by the bootstraps so many damn times that I've ripped them off. The current poverty guidelines are ridiculously out of touch. The poverty line for a family of 3 is $21,720. Where I live, because of the oil and gas boom, a 3-bedroom home rents for $1,200 a month. So if I made $22,000 a year, which could disqualify me from assistance, I would have $8,000 left to raise 2 children and myself on. And yet the poverty guidelines wouldn't classify me as poor. I Googled congressman's salary the other day, and according to Senate.gov, the salary for senators, representatives, and delegates is $174,000 a year. So a year of work for you is the equivalent of almost 4 years of work for me, and I'm $24,000 above the federal poverty guidelines definition of poor. It would take 9 people working full-time for a year at $10 an hour to match y'all's salary. I also read that each senator has authorized $40,000 for state office furniture and furnishings, and this amount is increased each year to reflect inflation. That $40,000 a year for furniture is $360 more than the federal poverty guidelines for a family of 7. And yet here I am, begging you on behalf of the 15 million children living in poverty in the United States, on behalf of the 1 in 3 kids under the age of 5, and nearly 100,000 children in my state of West Virginia living in poverty, to not change anything about these federal poverty guidelines until you can make them relevant and reflect what poverty really looks like today. You have a $40,000 furniture allotment. West Virginia has a median income of $43,000 and some change. People are working full-time and are hungry. Kids are about to be kicked off the free and reduced lunch rolls because of changes y'all want to make to SNAP. even though 62% of West Virginia SNAP recipients are families with children, the very same children who cannot take a part-time job because their parents will die without insurance. People are working full-time in this country for very little money. They're not poor enough to get help. They don't make enough to get by. They're working while they're rationing their insulin, and they're skipping their meds because they can't afford food and health care at the same time. So shame on you. Shame on you, and shame on me, and shame on each and every one of us who haven't rattled the windows of these buildings with cries of outrage at a government that thinks their office furniture is worthy of $40,000 a year and families and children aren't. I'm not asking you to apologize for your privilege, but I'm asking you to see past it. There are 46 million Americans living in poverty, doing the best they know how with what they have, and we, in defense of children and families, cannot accept anything less from our very own government. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchison.
Okay, so the purpose of that meeting, the purpose of that hearing, of that meeting was, first of all, I just want to say that this is, sometimes we wonder what we're doing, why we're doing it, and if we're doing it for, because we recognize that there are people in this country that are suffering, that are dealing with problems and issues that they should not have to deal with in the richest country on the face of the earth. At least that's what they tell us. Recently, I told my wife, she said, always saying that America's the richest country in the world. Where they get that number from? How'd they come up with that? And I told her that they're basing that on the corporations, not the citizens. Which is the only way I think we can come up with that. So anyway, this meeting was about a threat to America's children. The Trump administration's proposed changes to the poverty line calculation. Now, there's an organization called First Focus, okay? First Focus. And the federal poverty guidelines are what they are contending. And Donald Trump and his administration wanted to reassess the poverty lines. They wanted to move it up for what would, make a person eligible for SNAP benefits and other benefits. They wanted to increase that number because I guess the way they wanted to deal with people being poor is to say less people were poor. Not actually make them less poor, not actually give them resources, but just move the level of measurement up so that according to the books, there are less people that are poor. We do the same thing with unemployment. We drop people off the rolls of counting them after they stop getting unemployment benefits. All of a sudden, they don't count anymore. That's why our unemployment numbers are shit, for the same reasons. So the hearing was aimed at the Trump administration's proposal to rejigger the poverty line calculation in a way that would shed hundreds of thousands of children and families from benefit programs. The title of it is A Threat to America's Children. That's what they were there to address. Trump administration's proposals that sidestep the will and intent of Congress by rolling back bipartisan legislation on poverty, homelessness, nutrition, and environmental health. Those 4 areas. I've been seeing a lot of complaints, and I've had my own complaints about Congress, about various people, what they haven't done, what we wish they would do more of. And I'm trying to tell you guys, there is a lot going on in our Congress, a lot going on in our legislature that we're not hearing about, that we're not talking about, and these issues are one of them. And one of the things that used to infuriate the hell out of me is that during the Trump era, I'd be pointing out reasons why I didn't like Trump. And people just ignored him, and they'd all made it about the deep state. They made it about the deep state. They made it about CNN. They made it about all this other stuff. And these are the reasons why I didn't like Trump to begin with. Trump came in and he did what Republicans normally do. He cut programs that help poor people. That's what he did. He came in and he raised the amount of costs for assisted living or subsidized housing. Then he wanted to cut SNAP benefits. Now here he was lowering, trying to raise the amount or to raise the value of what it means to be on poverty, to increase that number so that less people will qualify for benefits. So if you made $20,000, he said, no, you make too much. You're above the line. He wants to move the line up so that you no longer qualify, which is a total disservice to all the people that fought to get benefits in this country. We got the richest country in the world. He wants a space war. He wanted a space war, guns in outer space, and the ability to go to the moon with aircraft. I don't know. All right? Sounds really cool. So you start thinking about all the programs that don't exist because they don't want them to exist, to make way for bombs and space war. So these are the reasons why I couldn't stand Trump. And of course, it was annoying when he tweet dumb shit. It was annoying when he make a statement that was totally bullshit. But that was just camouflage for the real damage that Donald Trump was doing on a daily basis. And it will be the same way under Joe Biden if we allow it. The problem with Joe Biden, as with Donald Trump, did you hear a lot about these programs getting cut under Trump? They were too busy talking about the things that sold newspapers, the things that got clicks on the websites. They weren't talking about these programs as much, were they? I remember Rachel Maddow doing a series of videos about Donald Trump's taxes. Did she do a series of videos about Donald Trump cutting SNAP? I don't think she did, Johnson. Not a lot of viewers. America doesn't care about poor people. Young lady in the video is Miss Hutchison out of West Virginia. She did a great testimony, amazing testimony, but it's not just about her. It's about all the organizations that are surrounding that. It's also about the people in Congress who supported these efforts. Katie Porter spoke. Rashida Tlaib spoke. AOC spoke. Ayanna Pressley spoke. The Coalition of Human Needs. The Child Poverty Action Group. There's a lot of hands on deck on these issues, guys. We criticize what we need to criticize, but we also push for. If we're not advocating and pushing for things that make meaningful changes in the people's lives, then what are we doing? What are we doing? Advocates, educators, and parents told the subcommittee on economic and consumer policy that the Trump administration's proposal to change state eligibility options for the supplemental or SNAP would deny food assistance to nearly 3.1 million people and put free school meals in jeopardy for nearly 1 million children. So this is why I supported and I have supported Reverend Barber, the Poor People's Campaign, the Poor People's Movement. I supported that, and I support these organizations that work in communities that try to supplement what the government's missing and to try to clog the holes and to try to take care of the kids, and also the adults who slip through. These aren't cracks, these are gaping holes. And we're still operating because because we love the bling bling. We're still operating under the idea that anybody who doesn't have is a fault of them. It's a fault of their own. They're not working hard enough. This is bullshit. No one works harder than poor people. You don't believe me? Go watch some of them go to work. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. We covered a lot today on the show. Let's go to phone calls, guys. Let's go to phone calls. I got a call that's been in the queue for a while. Been in the queue for a while, Johnson. Oh, boy. So I want to go get this person out the queue and thank them for being so patient. Phone number is 319-527-6212. Caller 206. 206, you're live. What's your name? What's your comment?
Hey, Tim. This is What Up America. I love your show.
Thank you, brother.
I love Freedom Tuesday. A lot of your stories like were just so amazing today. Like the speech from Bernie was just like so straight up and so like to the point. Like it just makes me so sad that he's not president now, because it's like, that was just so honest. And like what Biden does by comparison is just that it's such a mockery, like of what a leader should be, and then the other story that you talked about later about the Uber driver, that was just horrendous. And, like I'm actually a DoorDasher. And so I know, talking to a lot of my Black friends who are DoorDashers as well, they run into this problem. I live in a very kind of Republican area, and they have to wear they have to actually buy their own DoorDasher uniform, which they don't provide, just because they don't want to be thought of as suspicious when they're approaching people's houses and that sort of thing, And so it's kind of this bleeds into everything in that, the gig economy and that kind of thing.
Let me ask you something. Do they know us? When I say they, I mean the talking heads on cable news. Do they know you? I mean, they talk about the world as if it's a sport. They play political games, report on our pain, rack our brain to feed the stock exchange, but do they know us? Do they know what we care about? Nope. They're too far away. They can't see us. They can't feel us. They can't relate to us. See, when you want to know what's going on in your world, trust someone who lives in your world. Subscribe.